welcome to the podcast Connected, Curious, Care. My name is Karina and I'm so happy you are here. Today we're going to deep dive into the topic empathy and communicating with empathy. And you will take away a good understanding of what it means to be empathetic and why we can't just show empathy, why there are different levels of empathy, the head, the heart, and our whole body, what we typically think might be empathy but is not, and what kind of traps we can fall into when we communicate, and how to communicate with empathy. You know probably, if you experience empathy, that it can open doors and that it can unify and get away from this kind of notion of they and us. And it can bridge across hierarchies and cultures and opinions. And that's what I love so much about it. It really allows us to be with someone and experience something from the perspective of someone else and not my own. So, what helps me when I think about a concept is usually a visual. And I'll tell you my visual that I have when I think about empathy. So imagine your friend comes along and she's a little dancing, she has her little ear pods, and she's like, hey, I found this new music, this new band, and I listen to it all day long and it's so good. It makes me so happy, I'm in such a good mood. It's unbelievable. If I just respond kindly, like let's say with active listening, I could say, oh wow, that's so great. It seems like you really found a new band that you love. But if I am empathy in that moment, I would take the earbud and listen to the music, and I could understand the lyrics. I could feel the joy and the urge to move like my friend does. I could probably feel the music, the bass in my belly, and I would experience it from her perspective. Okay? And so when I went a little bit ahead with like the different levels of empathy. So when we are empathetic, it is really beyond just understanding something. So let's do another example. Let's assume our friend who is a physician in her educational program comes to you and is like, oh my God, you don't believe it. I am allowed to come along with this new procedure and assist. And it's with this new hotshot doctor, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm the one that's allowed to assist. And if I'm empathetic, I understand that this is a huge deal, that this could be career changing, that this is such a great opportunity for my friend to not only get skills, but also to get to know other doctors and put something on her resume. I feel the excitement and getting the recognition and feeling like, wow, I belong here. I'm on the right track. Maybe I even feel a little concerned that I don't disappoint. And I in my body, I can probably feel almost like the butterflies of excitement that go on if I continue talking with my friend. So it's beyond just like hearing her. I am experience with her the joy and the situation she's in. Okay? And that's not always the case. It's easier if we have someone coming to us that shares something that's joyful to respond in that way. Often when someone comes and shares a concern or a worry or is upset or angry, we tend to gravitate towards almost like an automatic response. And we have different ones that we prefer and go to easily, and some of them are really well-meaning, and some of them seem like they are empathetic, but they are not. And I want to give you another example and just walk you through a couple of these examples to help explain and show you the difference between some of our automatic responses and what empathy is. Okay, so think about an example. A colleague of yours comes to you and is clearly upset and tells you, wow, I just had the worst experience. I was called into the office and I was told that I did not perform as expected, and I'm just bummed. I don't know what to do right now. And one of the automatic responses we may give could be that we judge. And so that could look like, well, you gotta have, there was something that you did wrong. I don't know. Maybe it was just like the other day where you didn't even realize the mistake you made, right? So I judge the person that comes to me. Or I could lecture. I could say, well, I told you about a week ago that there is this class that you should participate in to avoid situations like this. If you would have signed up for this lecture, for this program, we wouldn't be here. I could give a warning. I could say, wow, you really got to get your act together, because maybe that's about it. I don't know how more you have. Maybe they kick you out. Or I could order. I could say, well, in order to fix that, you got to go to this educational program and on your free time, and then you come back and show me that you are able to do it. I could analyze something. I could say, well, I think it has nothing to do with your performance. I think it's just that you criticized her in public the other time, and I think that's why you now have an issue with that supervisor. Then we could use sarcasm or humor and say, well, if they kick you out, at least you don't have to do another night shift at this crazy place here. Okay. We could question and say, well, who was your supervisor before that? Like, did you ever do this that way? Like, did you ever properly got trained in this? You could just start a whole set of questions going off. You could praise and agree with that person and say, well, that is BS. You are hands down the best person I know at this place, and you are so right on this. And I can't believe it. Like, that's just crazy talk. I could sympathize and I could say, oh, wow, that's the worst feedback I heard in a really long time. Oh, wow, you're really, oh boy. Or I could agree, or I could reassure and calm, and I could say, well, just give it a few days. It's gonna settle down. No one is gonna talk about that in a few days, and it's gonna be just fine. Just it's okay. You are fine. Okay, and maybe you noticed in that communication, in that role play, maybe you cringed internally at a few of these responses because you felt how that doesn't match if you would be upset and go to a person that would then respond that way to you. Maybe you realize, ooh, I think I do that. And we all do. And like, I can tell you, like, my pitfalls that I go into easy is that I give advice without being asked to, that I love to agree with a person. I do. And praise to make them feel better. And so when you know that, it helps you to kind of pedal back next time and just stay with that person and focus on the empathy instead of going further along, okay? And maybe you realize what you really are allergic to. And I would love to know that. Like, write me a comment, let me know. I would be really excited to learn what it is for you. But so if that's not it, then what is empathy? And one of the first steps before we can even give empathy is like a self-check. That we check in with ourselves. Am I ready? Am I having the capacity right now to give empathy? And the answer can be no. Like we not always are in a situation where we have the space inside of us that we would be a good partner to give empathy. And you can still support someone and say, wow, I wish I could be here for you right now. I really do, but I realize I don't have the space for it right now. I don't have the head for it. Can I please call you tomorrow? Or can we go for a walk at the weekend and really take the time that I want to give you and we talk about it? Or you could say, is there anything I can do right now that I can take from your plate so you can just step outside for 5 minutes and take a deep breath and then you can come back. Like you can support, but if you feel you can't give empathy, then it's okay to say that. And that's also what I mean with like you can't just show or pretend giving empathy. If you can't hear the music, you can't hear the music. But you can still be there and maybe give empathy later or not. And there is something you can do that makes it more likely that you get in a position where you can give empathy, which is self-empathy. Like really making sure that you also take the time and prioritize self-empathy. And because that's such an important step in all of our communication, I will dedicate the next episode just for that. Okay, so right now, we'll just take it as a first step and check in on that. And then you have a few tools you can use. And with all these tools, it's always going to be important that you find your authentic way of talking to apply them. Like I don't want you to start falling into like a template sentence of like, oh, do I hear this correct? Or are you saying that? Do you feel like, like that may make the other person just feel like, what is going on? Like, you can use your own language and it will take maybe a few times to practice, but you do you and it's gonna be just fine. All right. So sometimes all it's needed is like some silent recognition that you hear and that you're there with the other person. And the way how I could do that is, for example, I could just be like, wow. Yeah. Oh no, wow. So I don't have to say a lot. I just can make like sounds or not sounds at all and still communicate, I'm here with you right now. I can paraphrase and summarize what I heard. I could repeat some of the key words that you just mentioned and keep checking in with you. And then I can do like an empathetic reflection. And what that means is like I check in what matters most to you in that moment. I could see and say, wow, that's so overwhelming. I mean, you must feel just shocked, like you didn't see that coming. And if the word feeling is like not a word that's often used in your workplace, for example, you don't need it. You can just say, wow, are you angry right now? Are you upset? Are you you're taken by surprise? I can see that. Or is it fair to say that really got you? Whatever it is, like, and make it sound like more like a question than a statement, so it's easy for the other person to say, no, not really. So you can keep checking in with each other. And name the need that may not be met at that moment or may be met at that moment. But you could say, wow, that sounds so overwhelming and almost kind of scary. I mean, you do want to belong here. You do want to be recognized for a good job. And you need the safety of this, right? So check in on the feelings and the needs. And that's like, it's like a hook or like an anchor that you can throw to the other person. And if it's the right feeling and the right need, it's like planted, and you have this connection with each other. And that's all there is right now to talk about when we talk about empathy. Just the 3 levels, and that it is all about being with someone else where they are at and seeing something from their perspective and meeting them where they are and not trying to push them along out of maybe an uncomfortable place, because it's not gonna work. There are 2 ways how they may react. One is that they try to come along with you, but it doesn't really work, and a really short period of time later they may come again and be like, I want to talk about that again, because it just, they were not ready to go to make a plan or to hear how great they are. Or it may give them the feeling that they don't get out of the situation alone. They kind of need you to feel better. And it could also be that they really know they stay where they are, and they feel alone, like me with my friend. I felt alone in that moment when she started to talk about her dad, when I was so upset about my dad. And it gives sometimes the feeling to the other person that there's something wrong to be at that place, right? Like, you shouldn't be there. Like, let's get out of there. Like, come on, And that's not empathy. Empathy is just like, wow, this is freaking dark in here, and I am with you. Like, I stay with you. And yeah, that's all there is. Like, let me know how it goes. I always love comments and hear how you apply something or how something went. I made a document that lists all these pitfalls that we just talked about automatic responding to something. So you can download that, you can sign up to my newsletter and stay in touch, and then we'll hear each other next week. And I look forward to that. Bye.